Hello YouTube, in this tutorial we're gonna talk about data types, and the reason why I have this scary kind of table here is I want to tell you that we are really happy right now because we are working with high level programming languages and they will automatically recognize with what kind of numbers and characters and strings you are working with, because see here these data types are from C programming language, and our colleagues like 2 or 3 decades ago, they need to know all these things if they want to even construct their first couple of lines of code. So they need to say that they will work with one character and then integers, and what kind of integers, negatives, and not just that, in which range are those negatives. Absolute hell. So they need to say, will they work with decimals, with floats, with strings, how long those strings will be, and so on and so on. In a PHP, in JavaScript, in Python, we can just type our variable, name for variable, and then you can just type 1, 2, 3, ABC, just Z, and JavaScript will automatically recognize what you're trying to say. It is very easy right here. You just say var x equals one character, and you don't need to type anything here or here, and that was the case in older programming languages. So you need to be really specific, especially if you are working with numbers. So if you are working with negative decimals like this, you must here define that you will work with the negatives and also negative decimals, something like that. So absolute mess. For example, let's create in JavaScript different data types and everything will totally be fine. For example, var x will be just a number, var epsilon will be decimal. Okay, oops, I forgot of course to close our command. Var z will be negative decimal and that will be instantly recognized. Var C will be just one character, and var S will be like some string. It's totally not important. We can even have spaces in it, nothing really special here. But this was complete hell defining in older programming languages. As I said, you cannot even start with programming if you don't know all these things into detail and all these ranges if you really want to be professional C programmer and C++. So right here we can just say document write, and we can use those things. So let me copy paste this couple of times, and let's have here also break pure HTML stuff. Okay, so let's use this as a kind of structure down there a couple of times. Okay, and let's populate these things like x here and epsilon and what else, z, ts, z, ts, and I have one more, so I don't need it. And now when I refresh this, the thing will completely work automatically. No additional things you need to specify here when you are specifying variables. Okay, you don't need to think about data types. Later, when you start learning about MySQL database and other databases, of course you need to know a little bit about data types, because tables in databases are like those Excel files, for example. So you need to know what kind of things you will put into individual fields, into individual columns, okay, in table in MySQL database, for example. But here, this is not a database, this is just plain, simple JavaScript source code, nothing scary and nothing fancy here. I mean, we are very happy these days. Right, and not even mention programmers who were doing things in assembly language. I mean, absolute mess. So not just that we can successfully define our variables, the results will be totally appropriate. For example, let's say that you want to add x to epsilon, and epsilon is decimal. Okay, so down there we can define a result. This is just a place where we will put a result of addition between x and epsilon. So x plus epsilon, and now down there the JavaScript will not round this result here to lower number, it will give you result as a decimal. Check this out. Document write and result, oops, and check result right here. It will be 3.5, so .5 will be recognized. Okay, that is so great. Some people will think that's not a big deal, but trust me, it really is when you're working with low-level stuff. So some people are probably confused. How can you put the result of some kind of operation into variable when you said that you need to define them at the start of your script? Well, sure, this is just a box. So in a box you can put even already existing things that you know, or this can be empty box that will be populated by some kind of operation. And in this case we are just using addition, very simple stuff. So sure, some people will say, well, that means that I can have x plus epsilon here and I will get the same result. Sure, no problem. But what if you change x and epsilon here? Do you want to go down there and change those things? I mean, it is really easy just if you use one common thing for this operation, so you can put it there and work on that a little bit later. So let's stick with that approach because it's very easy. See, refresh gives absolutely same result. So honestly, there is nothing special here that I want to talk about more. I will just repeat one more time, and I know that I'm boring probably, but we are very happy these days. We can be focused on our businesses, on our startup, and we don't need to care about low-level things, because most of today's programming languages, they are built on C. So programmers who were doing programming languages, they were C experts, and they did that job for us. So we don't need to be engineers, we just need to apply those things to create some kind of startup, business, money-making stuff, I don't know, some product or service on internet. We can enjoy our creativity, and because some other people maybe smarter than us, they already did that low-level stuff. And as I said, that was a lot of experimentation, a lot of errors. It needed a lot of time and a lot of budgets. So all these things, like all the programming languages, they started somewhere at universities, because universities do have budgets. But what about you sitting in your room? Do you need to invest like 3 years of your life into defining some kind of programming language so you can use it easier? So you need to deal with this low-level detection and so on. Absolute mess, man. Programmer languages these days, they are time saviors. It's like you have 2 or 3 workers already working for you the moment when you start thinking about your startup. Anyway, I'm gonna shut up because this was a long tutorial. In the next one, we're gonna talk about rules to define names for variables, because we must respect some things. Okay, so thank you for watching and see you there.